Hello everyone, welcome to the Dubai Airshow 2025. We're here in the AAM pavilion. We've got Joby's eVTOL aircraft behind us as well, and I'm delighted to be joined by Jia from SkyGrid, who's the CEO. So Jia, great to have you with us. How have you found the airshow so far? I know it's early days at the moment, but what's your first impressions?
It's just a lot of energy, and I think it's the first time we've seen a lot of these aircraft in one place. It's certainly first time for me. So just the energy is infectious.
Excellent stuff. And then I guess from this air show, from a Dubai perspective, there are actually a lot of exciting partnerships and a lot of movement in this region as well. So in your words, Jia, what excites you about this particular air show and the Middle East in general when it comes to the work that SkyGrid is involved in?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that's really impressive about the Middle East when you think about the UAE, Saudi Arabia, all these countries, is they have a very strong kind of national policy to advance air mobility and even all of the attendant elements of it, right? The infrastructure, the airspace, that's really exciting because in many ways, there's a regulatory dimension, there's an industrial dimension to AAM, but it's the policy dimension that really ties it together, right? We have to make it a national priority to get this technology out there. We're seeing that here. We're also seeing that, by the way, in the United States, right? With the launch of the EIPP, the CAT, other kinds of programs. So just excitement all around.
Excellent stuff. And since your appointment as CEO, Jia, how has SkyGrid's roadmap evolved? What are the top priorities, would you say, for the next 12 to 24 months?
Got it. While SkyGrid is in the business of building highly assured systems and airspace integration technologies for AAM, particularly AAM that are increasingly autonomous, we're a Boeing company, we're part of Wisk, so working very closely in that ecosystem, both with the vertical integration and as well as enabling the wider industry. So it's been a very exciting journey for me for the past 2 years. In the past 2 years, and this kind of a focus and reorientation at SkyGrid had started before I even got there, but it's something that we've accelerated since, is to pursue high assurance systems. So not really building a run-of-the-mill UTM, but think what is it necessary to build these digital systems and air traffic management systems and support systems for the integrated airspace. And that's where all the safety, the cyber assurance, the design assurance matter. So how can we take all of those good attributes of aviation and interpret it for the digital age? So very excited to be on that journey, and I think that makes us unique in this domain. The other area that we've pushed very hard is, even though there's this big vision of enabling more automated AAM access to the airspace, which is, I think, foundational to the success of all of these vehicles, but we don't want to wait until they're all flying at scale. We want to start with the existing operators. So in the past years, we've really worked hard to build those partnerships and to get the systems out there, and we're very excited to see those systems start working with existing operators as well.
Excellent stuff, Jia. Well, and then as you probably alluded to as well, SkyGrid known for leveraging AI in airspace. We have to mention the A word.
We have to do that. Yeah, the investors are hearing this. Yeah.
But what new capabilities are you developing that will really help to push automation or even predictive safety to that next level?
That's right. So there are really two bodies of this. On the one hand, we are building systems that will help these aircraft initially integrate into the airspace today. So think the first generation of autonomous passenger carrying cargo aircraft, big aircraft that have to manage, right, their air and ground risks. So think the Wisk aircraft, think others in this space. A lot of those first systems are in data and surveillance, achieving high integrity, enable these aircraft without onboard pilot to understand their environment and operate safely. So that's one large body of priorities, and that's just to get things out there today. Longer term, we are looking at how can we build systems to enable greater airspace modernization and automation. And we're doing work on both the concept development side and the product development side, prototyping what is called the provider of services for UTM or PSU, and building that into essentially increasingly automated ATM services in the future.
Excellent stuff. And if I were to touch upon Wisk, so you mentioned in previous answers that in June 2025, SkyGrid announced it had become a subsidiary of Wisk. How is that collaboration evolving, and what advantages does it give and bring to the team today?
Yeah, well, as you know, Jason, Wisk and SkyGrid are two parts of the equation. They're part of the integrated strategy that Boeing has for flight autonomy, which, by the way, doesn't even just stop at AAM vehicles. So it's very ambitious, it's highly integrated, and I think it's the right approach. The Wisk integration, we've been working with Wisk for some years. but the integration has really kind of supercharged the level of collaboration. So we're now actively building integrated systems. We're defining the interface for these digital services of tomorrow, which these are the kind of hard grinding things that you have to start now because and standardize, right, to enable this industry to take off. So we're able to get into a lot of the specifics of that. We're also jointly working with the FAA's Tech Center to pioneer next generation PSU services. There are a number of other things that we're working on together that's very exciting that you should be able to hear about soon. But just that level of integration is tremendous. It's from a SkyGrid perspective, and I think from an industry perspective, it's really important to have an anchoring customer that's ready to get autonomy out there now, right, and pioneer operations, IFR operations and beyond. So very exciting.
Excellent stuff. And then in terms of the Wisk and the partnerships you've had there as well, are there any other recent strategic partnerships or announcements that you could share? I definitely know you've been very active in sharing news with eVTOL Insights, but is there any other news you wanted to share to our audience that they might not already be aware of?
Right. So one of the, we continue to actively collaborate with the FAA Tech Center to, again, basically demonstrate some of these prototype PSU and advanced airspace integration functions end-to-end with the operator, with SkyGrid, and with the FAA in the loop. So that's very exciting, and it's also leading us to operational validation in the time to come. We just recently, at the Boeing level, but closely associated with SkyGrid, signed a memorandum of understanding with the Saudi CAA, GACA, to basically push advanced air mobility and airspace development within the kingdom to integrate all of these new entrants. So we're very excited about materializing the work there. We have also signed a collaboration agreement with MIT Lincoln, which is one of the premier research and development institutions of its kind in the world, to specifically look at how does weather influence operational efficiency and what new weather technology that we can source today out there and can be developed to basically enhance the operability of eVTOLs, which, as you know, we want to make sure we squeeze all the energetics out of that and make sure that we can have dispatch efficiency to provide a high-end service.
And if I could add on terms of the last bit about the Middle East and GACA as well, in your view then, what does the Middle East play in SkyGrid's international strategy? There's a lot of excitement about this space as well, as we said at the start, but from a SkyGrid perspective, what potential does the Middle East have for your strategy going forward?
Yeah, I think it's the callback to the initial point, which is that we have very tech-forward national policies, and also the ecosystem where you have the technology providers, where you have the investment capabilities, where you have the infrastructure capability to really start building out the coherent system. And that's particularly exciting for SkyGrid because we are unlocked really by movement in the airspace, by movement in the operational system, and movements in the infrastructure and ecosystem. So, in terms of getting the work in AAM done here and getting early operation and learning, this is a place you got to come here.
Yeah.
And we're actually on the collaboration note. We're looking forward to signing a couple of agreements at the show as well.
Excellent. You'll hear it first at eVTOL Insights when they become announced as well. And I guess talking about sustainability, I think it's a topic we have to touch upon as well. So I have to share a bit more then about what are you doing then to work with aviation authorities? We mentioned the FAA. To sort of support that more sustainable air operations as well. Is there anything you can share about kind of the work you're doing there, but also how your technology supports that sort of end goal of more sustainable operations?
Yeah. There are at least, I think, two dimensions to this, right? One is we're obviously here to enable the operations of these kind of aircraft, as well as, I would say, large UAS that needs to access integrated airspace in the future. So anytime when you have an electrified aircraft that can be autonomous, that can carry cargo on demand, carry people on demand, our mission to enable their operation is in itself promoting essentially aviation sustainability at both the operational level and at the technology level to get electrification across the board. So that's germane to our primary mission. Longer term, what the technology that we're building, which enhances both the airspace access and also operational efficiency of these aircraft, can be scaled up to other types of aviation. Like, we might say, hey, this system works for 3,000 and 7,000 feet now, but there's nothing that stops us in the future to say, what if we have better TBO? What if we have better in-route optimization of where we can fly in terms of waypoints? What if we want to optimize our properties with respect to contrails? So there are lots of things that that higher level of airspace intelligence and the operability and actionability on top of that, that will buy you in terms of operational efficiency across the aviation domain.
Excellent. And if I could touch upon then kind of the digital flight corridors, I've managed to transcribe my notes on my pad as well. So are you able to talk about SkyGrid's progress in developing those digital flight corridors and in all real-time deconfliction in the AAM autonomy as well? Is that something you're able to share upon as well?
So corridors is an interesting concept. What I will say is that we are working quite a bit on what the FAA has called cooperative separation in its UAM ConOps 2.0, which is the idea that really at low altitude when you have these aircraft flying, air traffic controller can really maybe manage the separation around 2 or single digit type aircraft. And that's a big constraint, especially if you're flying in metroplex environments with a lot of IFR traffic and other constraints. So what SkyGrid is working along with others in the industry is to figure out how do we do that cooperative management that will automate separation and other kind of management at low altitude for these aircraft, right? Where there's a certain safety assurance that's implied. We can't go into a lot of the specific. Hopefully, there'll be more information coming on that. But what I can say is that we are prototyping the systems. We are testing them. We are also working on actually a ConOps / white paper that will be released over the next few months, articulating our vision for how cooperative separation and this corridor concept will work. So if you read the FAA ConOps, it simply says there will be such a thing. But for all of you out there who's wondering what will that thing look like, we are trying to fill in some of those gaps.
Excellent. Well, very much look forward to that as and when it becomes available too. And if I could touch back onto the AI conversation as well, in that, how far would you say we are from an enabled airspace management that can operate with minimal human oversight? It's always a question of how much of the human needs to be involved, but then there's also the adoption side of it where is too much autonomy, going to put people off. But I think it's quite the opposite. So are you able to share about kind of that side as well?
Yeah, we recently actually gave a discussion of AI at the national academies in the US along those similar themes. I can go on, but I think the high level is that we're actually at a point in aviation where in my mind, we've kind of hit a low point on sort of connectionist AI, where everybody is saying, look, we don't need AI. We can just build expert systems. We can build just logical, symbolic logic to fly these aircraft. I get it, because it's hard to certify connectionists, deep neural nets. We have the potential for unbounded output, for bounded input. We also, traditional aviation, where you have to trace software implementation to requirement, that's very hard when I have 1 trillion parameters, right? And so those are some real challenges. But I do believe that in the future, we owe it to ourselves to figure out how to incorporate those systems into aviation, whether it's on the aircraft or the ground-based autonomy. I think they might appear first in the ground-based systems, where if you think air traffic, right, there are different layers of air traffic time horizons. There's the strategic, the pre-strategic, the tactical, and the here and now immediate. So in the air traffic world, I think with strategic operations, where you have to predict what happens in the airspace, what happens with controller and pilot behavior, what happens to flight intent, what happens to all the constraints in the airspace and weather, there are a lot of opportunities where you can do that prediction, inform your decision making, and still bound those decisions inside of hard shell autonomy. So as an example, I can do a deep neural net and figure out the best plan, right, from point A to B, considering all the constraints, and maybe this flight happens 2 days from now, so I'm doing all the prediction. So from a optimality perspective, I can't guarantee that the deep neural net gave you the very best solution. It's probably very good. But then I can run a very simple loop to say, did I fly into a mountain? With a deterministic system, and it will tell me yes or no. So I think that's, when you think about it at the system level, there are things that we can do, and air traffic and operations is probably the place where we have the ability to pick the horizon that we want to work on, right, and get the system into operation.
Excellent stuff. And final question, it's been a real good insight, so thank you, Jia, as well. I guess if we were to fast forward 5 years, what does SkyGrid's success look like? What role do you see it playing in shaping global air mobility? I think it's an exciting time now. It's going to be very exciting in the future. So how would you see the next 5 years? Without wanting to gaze into a crystal ball.
Right. I mean, I think there are just really 2 or 3 things. Number one, success would be getting there operating with the fleet now, right? And with these aircraft as they're coming into service, and also enabling in at least one market scaled operation of these type of vehicles. That to me would be mission success, right? A body of credible existing operators and the future operations at hand. I think number two is making measurable progress on autonomous and digital flight rules as a community. Even though that's not a commercial enterprise, we do see that as being important for the whole industry. So we will continue to help carry that torch forward. And thirdly, where this is foundation to all of this, is getting to formal approval of our services that is giving now safety of life guidance, or maybe even directives for some of these aircraft that are flying in an increasingly autonomous way. And having that assurance be demonstrated in the validation and verification exercise as commiserated for this kind of program, and then getting it formally approved by an NSP or a CAA. So that would be really fundamental to the success.
Excellent. Well, we wish you all the very best going forward with the team in SkyGrid. For our members who want to keep up to date with SkyGrid, I guess on social media, how can people follow up all the updates with SkyGrid going forward?
Yeah, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on all the places that you are. I also recommend that you take a look at the SkyGrid ConOps, which we have released early this year, but also look forward to additional concept of operations and white papers in this space. I'd like to joke that we built the software, but unlike other Silicon Valley kind of startups, well, we're in Austin, so not quite Silicon Valley, but we also write documents and write ConOps because the industry, I think, has to coalesce and move forward together. And we hope to, we can't arrogate that with just our opinions. We want to get this out there, get the conversation started, and make sure that we're in this moving together.
Perfect. Well, Jia, really appreciate your time today at what has been a busy air show and a loud air show at the moment as well. So thank you for your time.
We'll test the quality of your sound isolation system there, but have a great show. It's been really great to be on and to talk to you about the future of the industry.
Thank you, Jia. Thank you.